Hey everyone, it's Tom Seymour from VHS Massacre Radio, just giving you an update, telling you what I'm up to and some of the other things that are going on. Typically, I don't delve into media topics. It's not really my thing. I think other people do it better, but there's a few things that have happened I couldn't help but want to have a quick discussion about. Streaming seems to be plateauing to some degree. If we look at Netflix lost 200,000 subscribers in the first 3 months of 22 and is expected to shed 2 million more this quarter. I know a lot of people feel like Netflix is overpriced as it is, and so we'll see how that susses out, as well as Disney's numbers are flattening out, and it does seem to be sort of telling the tale that it's a limited amount of market they can capture. Not everyone is down with streaming in that way. There's a lot of people who are older who are still using their terrestrial antennas and cable and things like that. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. I can't, as an independent filmmaker, someone who's been doing this for about 25 years, directed 10 features, produced about 20. When things are good for mainstream media, that is typically a good thing. I think there's, I'd like to say that, when you see some of these media conglomerates struggling, that somehow is a good sign for us. Maybe it opens the door for us to sneak in and make some money. But I'm not sure that's the case. What you're seeing is a loss in profitability of content overall. There's a lot of weird things that are happening. Like, YouTube seems almost dead to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I watch my pop culture stuff, and there are some absolute giants on YouTube, titans, that get more views in 6 hours than CNN Plus did their entire run, which is an interesting thing to pivot to. So CNN Plus was a service that was offered, in which they put a paywall for CNN Plus, and they were doing things like documentaries and TV shows. I was looking through the website, it looks sort of more like History Channel type stuff. Like, one show was called like Finding Jesus, and there was an interview show, and pretty mediocre television. And but they said was only 150,000 people had subscribed, which is nothing. I mean, your favorite YouTuber probably has 2 million subscribers. If you think about that, you think about how little overhead they have to make that happen. And they said, more embarrassingly, at any given time, 10,000 people were using the show. So you imagine they poured hundreds of millions of dollars into CNN Plus to have 10,000 people active on that service at any given time, which, for God's sake, I get that on TikTok. And that's the other thing I wanted to say too. Really consider jumping onto TikTok if you have a YouTube channel and things like that. They're now allowing up to 10 minutes for 10-minute length streaming content. And if you look, I mean, I put up 3 videos recently. Interview with Monique Dupree, interview with John Brennan from The Last Drive-In. Monique's like a scream queen, horror film actress who's been in, dozens of independent films, including Shakespeare's Shitstorm, directed by Lloyd Kaufman. I put up a Q&A. So if you look at here, 33 views, 44 views, 21 views. Pretty sad. In the height of my career, I was doing videos that had, look, this one's got 10 million. This was 2.6 million, 500,000, So now you look here, and it's like 33, Even some of my New York City interviews, 50,000, 11,000, stuff like that. But if I go to TikTok, let's see, I think I can go here. So let me just go to the main profile here. So if you look at some of the some of the more popular ones here look 33,000 views. Several are like 5,000 views, 10,000 views. Here, like 10.2 thousand views. Okay, so the same interviews that I put up on YouTube, 358 views. Okay, 1,000 views with Monique Dupree, nearly 1,000 with John Brennan. Okay, now you take that, you add up the impressions on Twitter and all the other stuff. I mean, I'm getting the bulk of my views now outside of YouTube. I'm getting, plus, the podcast. So it could be 5,000 views I got on the stuff, all in. And then on YouTube, I'm getting like, I don't know what, 130 views on all 3 videos, so it gets to a point where you're like, I don't know what the deal is. I mean, people absolutely watch YouTube, and the most popular people's channels are growing. So I think that's pretty awesome there. My channel is relatively small, but it does make you look at things. Like, I mean, VHS Massacre 2 trailers got 4,000 views. It's not terrible, but original trailer for VHS Massacre 8.5, some of these in here 11K, 52K. The Joe Bob Briggs, the full length interview I did, I think has over 20 or 30,000. Anyway, but I'm pretty small potatoes. But cross platform, I've really been trying to grow my brand, and so if you look at VHS Massacre, I'm on Spotify and Stitcher are relatively small. Those all funnel into Podbean, and that's the subscriber base is significant there. But I think I'd say all in across all of my VHS Massacre media, and then funneling in my own personal Facebook, my own personal Instagram, all that stuff, I'm close to about 20K followers. And that's pretty good for me. I'm not, I'm more of a feature-length filmmaker, so I'm sort of sharpening my social media kung fu here. And I branded everything VHS Massacre Radio because I think that's the most powerful thing I've done to date. So I think that's important. But it is strange, though, when you think about how little this company, CNN Plus, 10,000 active streamers. I mean, it is absolutely absurd. Like, I like James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, who was in my recent doc, VHS Massacre 2. I watch his stuff all the time. He'll get like 2 million. He'll get 2 million views on one of his YouTube videos, a new angry video game nerd episode. He'll get that in a couple days. So you're getting to a point where even some of the late night show people like Kimmel and Fallon and Colbert, they're getting less views than like some of the pop culture podcasts on YouTube. And you think about this multi-million-dollar infrastructure where many people are getting $1 million plus salaries in that, working on those shows, and then you realize that they are no more liked than some of these YouTube shows. It makes you wonder how this whole thing is running. One of the things is some of this stuff, especially CNN in particular, is funded by pharmaceutical companies. At least 75% of the ad revenue comes from that. And you can see how they behave. I remember even, I think it was 2006 and 2007, they were doing Michael Moore was premiering Sicko, and he did an interview on CNN, and Sanjay Gupta did basically a hit piece on him right before he went on the air. And Michael Moore got pissed, and he joked around. He's like, yeah, how many pharmaceutical companies were running as advertisements before this segment? And he was right back then, and he's right now. And you have shows on CNN that literally get like 100,000 views a night, 200,000 views a night. Like virtually no one. Like that would be good numbers for me, but I'm not anyone. They're a $1 billion network, right? So, but you have the pharmaceutical companies paying these premium prices for ads, and it's because that network essentially is like a giant billboard for pharmaceuticals at this point. And most of the news is editorialized. There's very little hard news, and I think what they're going to try to do with CNN is get rid of a lot of the opinion pieces and go back to hard news. And CNN was never great. It's never had a good legacy. The best news is network news, CBS News, 60 Minutes, things like that, NBC, some ABC, things like that. Those are of the highest quality broadcast stuff. And then if you're talking print, that's different. And if you're talking, that's a different ballgame. But CNN has always been known as the sort of cheap, free cable news that's always on. And so they don't have a particularly good legacy to even go back to. But I think, hopefully what they're going to do is forge forward and try to actually start doing news again. And then, the Netflix thing, I think that's just something that's going to probably continue to get worse. They're talking about shedding 2 more million views. I read something, someone was joking around about how it's like you subscribe to Netflix to see the major films, and then you go on Netflix, and it's like a bunch of the people who work there made their own shows. And it's always sort of, most are not very good. And from a filmmaker's perspective, most look incredibly generic. They look like they're all shot on red camera, zero grain, clarity of image, but generic, uncinematic, lack of character, and they all seem very similar. And so I think that's why independent film is important, and that's where we come in. We can make the gritty films that are imperfect but hit home runs. So specifically in genre films, which seem to be the last stronghold of the no budget filmmakers, horror and sci-fi, more so horror. Those are the surviving independent filmmakers. Most of the stuff you see is not independent at all. I always bring up A24, who does some pretty incredible films. I don't mean to bash them, because they do really good work, but they're a multi-billion-dollar company funded by the Guggenheim partners. They're in no way independent, but it is very good stuff. But that brings me to Troma and the importance of Troma Entertainment, who I've made films for the last decade, and I think they're really important because they're a sort of Roger Corman style movie factory that creates film directors. And they've from James Gunn to Eli Roth to Matt Stone and Trey Parker. You have some of Sam Jackson's early films. A lot of different filmmakers have come out of there, and it's not as if Troma taught them everything. Much like Roger Corman, it's not Roger Corman taught like Ron Howard and Jack Nicholson and all those people, Peter Bogdanovich. It's not like Corman taught them everything, but what did happen was they came out of that. They learned something, and it was a stepping stone for them to move on to something else. It is strange when I say stepping stone. It's very weird because there's no real ladder. There's no real stepping stone. You either find the next project and it's bigger, or you don't. You either move up or you don't. A lot of it is luck. So it is a difficult, closed-off business. And if you want to keep making your own stuff, you are going to be in a position where you're probably not going to make a lot of money. Like, if you want to come up with a perfected pitch, and you write a script, you write a grant, you try to get money that way, and then a studio takes it over, dissects it, rewrites it a bunch of times. Maybe you get to make it. Maybe they just want the script and they don't want you to direct. It's very hard to get something made the way you want it, and I was lucky enough to do that with some of my films. I'm doing a recut of The Exorcist of Fleet Marriage that's going to come out as a new film, and that's like an independent project that I think is pretty cool. So I'll let you know when that's finished. But definitely check out new platforms as they emerge. The other thing I'm doing is Decentraland is the first, I believe it's the first functioning metaverse, as they're calling it. And the first Cineplex ever made is launched by a company called Film Rare. And they're going to play one of my films, McLeod, about the king of royalty-free music, Kevin MacLeod. They're going to play that starting next month, playing the whole month. And so that'll be a cool feather in my cap. It'll be the first... It'll be one of the first films played in the first metaverse Cineplex, virtual Cineplex. So that's fun to check out. So check out Decentraland. And, even if these things don't hit, you got to jump on new technology, especially if it doesn't cost anything. So I would definitely say check out Decentraland, sign up, and try it out, because I think it'll be a lot of fun. So anyway, that's about it. VHS Massacre Blu-ray is out now. You can get it now. It was a bestseller back in January, and I think it's doing real well now. But check it out.